Alright guys, welcome back to another video, and in this one we're going to be having a lot of fun, and actually it's going to kind of be like a game that you guys can participate in and play along with this video. But basically we're going to be going through 8 things that only OG Fortnite players will remember in the game, and stuff that's been removed, changed, just 8 things that I think only the true Fortnite players that started a long time ago will actually remember. And I've wanted to do this video for a while, and actually my friend Nexif did a similar video recently. He had a similar idea to this video, but this one's going to be a lot different and a ton of fun. So going back to what I mentioned about this video kind of being like a game that you can play along with, basically let's see how many of you guys know these 8 things that I'm going to be going through. So let's say if you're a Fortnite expert and you knew all of these, you were here for every single one, let's say you have to leave a like on the video so we know just how many experts there are. But then on the other hand, if you learned something new or weren't a Fortnite player during one of these, just instead leave a comment on the video about which thing you weren't there for. So I was here for all of these, so I'm curious how many of you were. But yeah guys, video is going to be a ton of fun, so let's just jump into it with the first thing on the list. Alright, so let's start it off with kind of a tough one. I think a lot of you will know what this is, but I don't think a lot of you have actually been here to use it. So this one starting out is the Pumpkin RPG. Now again, I know a lot of you have probably seen this in videos or just, you know, from back when the Halloween event was live. And again, this Pumpkin RPG came with the Halloween event. Around October was when you were able to use the Pumpkin RPG. But basically, if you didn't know, the Pumpkin RPG was simply a reskin of the original RPG. It came in blue, purple, and legendary. It all looked the same, and it was just a really weird version of the RPG. Like, it did shoot the same, it did the same damage as the normal variants, but it looked completely different, and it shot like these pretty menacing looking pumpkin things that when you saw them coming for you, you were a little bit scared. And not only that, they made this freaking creepy and admittedly super annoying sound, especially when you were just getting spammed with them from enemy forts. But real quick, here's the sound of it in case you forgot or weren't there for it. But yeah, this RPG was just crazy, and not only that, this was the time that spawned rocket riding, and I think it was actually because the pumpkin-shaped, you know, like, rocket was actually a different hitbox than, like, the original rocket, so people were actually able to ride on top of it. So that is what spawned rocket riding, because I believe the original RPG shape didn't actually allow for rocket riding. After the October event went away, they actually had to change it around so that you could still do rocket riding. But either way, the Pumpkin RPG was a lot of fun, and I think that's a good one to start out on. Now moving into the next one, this one is pretty special because it is the jump pad. Now I don't think a lot of you will know about this one because a lot of us didn't even use it, and this was removed quite a bit ago. I don't actually remember when it was removed, or actually I think it was removed when the launch pad was introduced into the game, or maybe a little bit after. I don't remember the exact date, but basically this jump pad was something that you could pick up, very similar to the launch pad. You would place it on the ground, but it acted a lot differently. Instead of launching you into the air where you could like glide around and, you know, sneak up behind people, this jump pad, and actually there was 2 versions of the jump pad. One was to launch you straight upwards, and another one was to launch you in a singular direction like forwards. But the difference with these is when you got launched from it, you didn't actually deploy your glider. You were just simply thrown across the map to wherever the jump pad was facing. Now you might be wondering, why did they take this away? That sounds like a lot of fun. Well, it was kind of garbage. Nobody ever used it. There was really no reason to use it. I mean, it didn't launch you that far, and how many times do you really need to be launched upwards? And then when the actual launch pad came around, it worked way better. It was useful in way more situations, and this eventually got removed. Now actually, I believe that this was technically replaced in the game, and you can get it currently, and I don't think this is a stretch, but I think it's in the form of impulse grenades. They basically do the same exact thing. They launch you forward, they launch you upwards if you place them right at your feet, but they're just a lot more versatile. They replaced them with a grenade, and essentially you have the jump pad living on through the impulse grenades. But jumping into another one here, this one, I think this one's a little bit easier because this is closer to today's date, or actually not that close. This is about a few months ago for December or the Christmas event, but these were the special Christmas trees that were placed around the map for the special Christmas event. So if you weren't here for these, basically here's some pictures of them, and I'll try and find a video. I'm not sure if I have one yet, but yeah, these special Christmas trees were loaded up around the map. There was about 8 or so of them, I want to say, and there was one like in the middle of Wailing Woods next to Greasy Grove, stuff like that. They were scattered around the map, but under each of the trees you could find between 1 and 3 chests, and it was just an extra way of finding loot out on the battlefield during the Christmas event. In fact, they were actually very similar to the shrines that were added recently for the Lunar New Year event. So basically it was the exact same thing with that, but just a little bit different. These ones only had chests, whereas the shrines had chests and ammo boxes. But as for the fourth one, this one is also from the Christmas event, but it's a little bit more fun, and for some reason it's one that I feel like people kind of forgot about. It's the reskinned grenade launcher in the form of the Snowball Launcher. So the Snowball Launcher was just a very weird version of the grenade launcher, and again, it's very similar to the Pumpkin RPG. It was the exact same weapon, but just a reskin, and it also reskinned the grenades actually. Instead of shooting out, grenades, it's a grenade launcher. I mean, that's pretty obvious. But it instead shot out these snowballs with little faces on them, and I believe it made a funny sound as well as soon as they were shot out. But it was a very cool thing. Whenever you saw these, it was, you had to pick them up. You had to give it a try. And honestly, it looked pretty dope. I do like the Snowball Launcher, and I'm excited to see them do more stuff like this in the future. I'm surprised they didn't do anything for like Easter or spring, or maybe they'll be doing something like that very soon. But yeah, the Snowball Launcher was a very fun addition, and I'm sad to see it go, but I'm excited to see what they have planned next. But then getting into another one here, this one is true OG, alright? This is like, if you were here for the beginning, you would remember this, and I guess I could kind of give some leeway on it because it changed a bunch of times, but I'm talking about the OG map. And actually, let's say the map before like Tilted and the new Flora came onto the map that we have today. So going back in our time machine to the very first picture of the Fortnite map, here's what I believe is the first map. Now, I don't think I was actually here for this, or actually I can't really remember. It was around this time. They changed it around very quickly, but with this map, as you can tell, it was super light green, and there was not many locations around the map. Like, as you can see on this first one, you do have stuff like Tomato Town and Salty Springs, but you don't actually have names for them. Like, Salty Springs doesn't have a name on it. It was an unnamed location at one point, which is crazy to me. But you can also see that this was way before Tilted, way before like Snobby Shores and Shifty Shafts. It was just a really different looking map, and then eventually it became the map that we know today, which, comparing them side by side, you can see the differences. The original map did not have any of like these special biomes, especially with, you can see, Moisty Mire. It was the exact same grass all around the map and looked a lot different. But then for number 6, this one is similar to the jump pad, but it is the electric traps and the normal blue spikes. This one was interesting, and I don't remember exactly when it was changed, unfortunately, but it was changed a while ago. I do remember that. But if you've been playing Fortnite just recently, you know that there's only really one trap in the game, and that is the spike trap. But before this spike trap was the only trap in the game, there was actually 2 or 3 traps technically. The spike trap was one of them, but it was actually blue rarity, which was super annoying because you always thought it was a gun, and that honestly sucked. I'm so happy they actually changed that. But along with the original spike trap, you had these electric traps, which were actually separate types of traps. Like, you had an electric trap for the ceiling that could only be placed on the ceiling, and then you had one that you could only place on walls, and then the OG spike trap was one that you could place on the ground. So needless to say, these traps were quite annoying to use. You didn't actually use them very much, simply because they were a huge pain to use, and especially with the electric traps, like as you can see in some of these videos, they electrocuted people, but since they were electric, they made this sound that gave them away constantly. Like, you would be, I don't know, 100 feet away from a house and you could hear this thing going off, but it would make this sparking sound that basically notified any player in the general vicinity of the map that there was a spike trap there. So it did not work very well at all for a trap, but it was cool to see used and how they changed it. Now then, for number 7, this is a true OG one, and it's kind of the symbol of an OG player, the Mako Glider. Now, I know the Mako Glider doesn't look like anything special right now, but the story behind it is what kind of makes it more special. So basically, this Mako Glider was awarded to people that reached level 25 in the very first season of the game. Before they had the item shop, before they had the battle pass, this was the thing that you worked towards. And it was a little bit of a disappointing reward, but now that we have so many other gliders and stuff, it's kind of a fun one to have and reminisce about, because it was like the first custom glider that you could get. And what's funny about this one is that it actually showed up in the shop a little bit after season 1, which was confirmed to be a mistake, but just seeing it in the shop, and I don't know if you could actually buy it, but it was a little bit weird to see it in the shop, and they did eventually take it down. But yeah, the OG Mako Glider, I still have it, and I love it a bit. It has a special place in my heart, but it was a cool one, and it was really the only reward for season 1, which makes it even a little bit more special. But if you guys are still going and you know all of these things, you were here for all of these things and we're just complete experts on it, let's end it with one more equipable item, and that is the Snowflake Glider. So this one is a little bit of an easy one to end on, but this Snowflake Glider was just, it was pretty cool. So more recently, you guys know the special like dragon umbrella, or it wasn't called that exactly, it was called something similar for the Lunar New Year event, but basically the Snowflake Umbrella was exactly like that. You got it for winning during the Christmas event, and you could win any game mode, solo, doubles, squads. As long as you won one game, you would get this glider, and it was kind of a fun one to have because you were able to show off that you won a game. And honestly, I wish they would add more stuff like this, like if you got 100 wins, you got a special glider to show people and kind of intimidate people as well. I think that would be really cool. And actually, I think I talked about this in a previous video. The golden umbrella was supposed to be something that comes into the game and was a reward for something like this. It wasn't confirmed, but I thought it was found in the game file, so maybe they decided to push that off, but hopefully they do something like that soon. But this Snowflake Glider was kind of the first thing that did that, and it was a cool one to have. I equip it every once in a while to reminisce, but overall it was just a fun one, and something that I think only OG Fortnite players will remember. But anyways guys, that is going to be it for this video, but be sure to play along with the game. So if you were a Fortnite expert, be sure to leave a like on the video, and if you learned something new or weren't a Fortnite player during one of these things, be sure to comment which one of those things it was. But yeah, be sure to subscribe if you're new for more videos like this, as well as check out some of my previous videos such as a top 15 best moments on the left, and then you know what, another top 15 best moments on the right. There's some good videos there, be sure to check them out. And other than that guys, I will see you in the next one.